Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tosh Talks, a brand new episode. Well, that's kind of an insane thing to say because every time you see an episode to you, it's brand new. Unless you watch my show over and over again, which I do personally, because you find layers of meaning that wasn't even aware I was telling you. Even I don't know what I'm talking about in most of the cases. But I'm Tosh Berman. This is Tosh Talks. I am the book buyer at Book Soup in West Hollywood. In Los Angeles, and we've just got this really exciting book that came in. It's by a photographer, a Swiss photographer by the name of KARLHEINZ WEINBERGER, and it's a book called Rebel Youth. And Weinberger, who passed away about 2 or 3 years ago, in the late 50s and early 60s, he photographed the local youth in his city or town in Switzerland. And Weinberger, as far as I know, was not a professional photographer. He was a guy who worked in a factory all his life. And this is sort of like his hobby, photographing attractive people. One always hears rumors about a photographer whose hobby is photographing young, attractive people. And in this case, I think it's true. I think that was his main interest, is photographing attractive people that he was attracted to. So there is quite of a voyeuristic quality to his work. And what's amazing about these photographs, if you look at it now, you think this is like a fashion shoot from a fashion magazine now. But actually, this is all done in the early 60s, late 50s and early 60s. And there's like a gang of kids at that time in Switzerland who had a very, very unique way of dressing. And this is our opening page. Most of these photographs are in black and white. You probably can't see that clearly. I know it's sort of false. You want to do this or make you sick, but that's part of the illusion of TV or YouTube, isn't it? But basically, these kids are probably like around, I don't know, anywhere from 16 to like 20. And he just photographed these kids like hanging out a lot around the town, mostly on the weekends, because as I mentioned, he worked in a factory all day. For the workday. So the weekend's the only time he had free time to do photography or work at nighttime as well. Sometimes he would set up his apartment as a studio, a makeshift studio, and he puts a backing like this. So he takes these kids into his apartment and photographs them as well. The majority of the subject matter of the photographs are males, and what strikes me, they're dressed like sort of like a combination of rockers meets teddy boys. As I mentioned, in England, the teddy boy movement were these young rockabilly kids who dressed like Edwardian English clothes from like almost like back from the 19th century, but they sort of put a country and western tinge to their clothing, and they had these huge pompadours, and their hair was quite long, and they listened to rockabilly music. And then on the other hand, a rival gang called the Rockers. And the Rockers were all guys wearing like motorcycle clothes, leather clothing, and pompadours still the same. And there's sometimes be a conflict between these two groups. But the Swiss group combines the mod aesthetic, or the teddy boy aesthetic, with the rocker aesthetic. And it's quite remarkable how it all works together. And for instance, I've never seen belt buckles like this in my entire life. I don't know about you, but this is like heavy-duty, heavy metal belt buckles. And you probably can't see it that closely, but the photograph here is Elvis Presley. In fact, all of these are Elvis Presley. One says Elvis Vince, Gene Vincent, I presume. And all these guys are like incredibly beautiful looking, quite charismatic, and with the greatest clothing styles I've ever seen. And here's some color photographs. Very romantic in a way, but very kind of street thuggish, very sort of sexy. You just know it's wrong. Everything's wrong. And so the appeal of this book is that everything is wrong. And here's like one kid here devoted to James Dean on his belt buckle. I can't imagine wearing a belt buckle that heavy. To keep your pants up with that belt buckle must be some engineering. Well, wait, here's something interesting. I'm not sure about this personality of this guy who's wearing this belt buckle, but he has not Elvis, but Cliff Richard. That is a kind of I don't like to use the word radical too much, but that's pretty much a radical thing. Put Cliff Richard on your belt buckle. Okay, let's go back to reality. James Dean again. And this kind of here is a grouping of these guys together. What I also think is the detail work. Like I love this. Both of them have this like scarf on their left leg. It looks like on their knee, and it seems to be very coded type of fashion. It seems to be. I'm not sure what it's telling me, but it's almost it's a uniform of sort. And I find it totally fascinating because I don't know anything about these people. I mean, they're Swiss, and if you're like an average American like me, you know nothing about Switzerland. And then he started taking, and I mentioned a lot of these photographs are taken like in campgrounds or outside of the around town, usually in parks. But sometimes he takes, as I mentioned before, he takes photographs in his apartment of the kids, and it's very interesting how he separates the kids from their normal environment and puts them in his own environment, which is totally artificial. And that I find totally fascinating as well. And here's like a sort of typical park scene where they all sort of get together and hang out and do stuff. When I say do stuff, it makes it sound kind of more sexy, because I meant it that way. Horseshoe, good luck, especially when you put it in your crotch area. It's a good thing to have. And also chains around the neck and stuff. It's sort of like hip-hop fashion before hip-hop, really. And then also he photographed the women, the girlfriends, and the girls of the gang group, and there's like sort of photograph. And they're kind of both like sweet, but kind of Shangri-La's type of tough, like really, I think they would, I'm sure, well I'm not sure, I don't know these people, but I would presume they wouldn't mind like knifing you in the dark, or even broad daylight probably. And the haircuts here, I mean, it's kind of these girls are beautiful. It's fantastic. And here's one sort of a toughy chick here. I love her. And anyway, and this is kind of great too, because I love that, if you watch the show, I'm totally obsessed with pop culture, especially in connection to music. And I love this guy that's wearing jeans that says Elvis on one leg and it says Vince on the other. And, it's kind of interesting in history, like in the 50s, like the letterists, or the 40s, late 40s to the 50s, the letterists / situationists often write text on their clothes. And it's kind of interesting, these Swiss kids in the 60s did the same thing, of which I think they were not doing that in Europe at the time, late 50s, early 60s. But then interesting, the punk rock stuff started doing this again. So it's kind of interesting how you see sort of the cycle of fashion or street fashion happening. It never dies. Now, this came out, it's published by Rizzoli. John Waters wrote a really great introduction to this book. He actually met the photographer. He went to Switzerland and met him and actually bought a print of his from him directly. And this guy never became, he started becoming known like in his late in life. He was probably around 40 years old when he took these photographs in the early 60s. And he just died a couple of years ago, and I think he's like almost 80 years old. And now this book, you can look at it right here, but you'll never ever get it, because I've been told it's worth lots of money. I'm talking about like $25 to $50. Is that a lot to you? This is like $1,000, $1,000. And I have it, and we keep it at a bank. But this is a book that came out about 10 years ago. It's the first book on him. And it's actually quite different because it shows actually a larger perspective of his work. Besides, this is all the kids, but here's sort of like his early beefcake photographs he took in his apartment. And again, he's not a professional photographer. He just basically found these people on the street or friends, invited them over to his apartment and photographed them. And there's one photograph I'm really intrigued with, which is the, where is he, right here? This kid here with an all leather outfit, like a motorcycle leather outfit. I think it's incredibly beautiful. And here's one like outside, and then another photograph of him inside Weinberger's apartment. You can't see leather outfits like that anymore. And again, the whole belt issue, you can't see here, but like again, there's like a belt issue that runs through like his work. Huge belt buckles, huge belts. And yeah, I mean, this guy is phenomenal. And there's a. So if you have to choose between these two books, of course, the rare, expensive, you can't get one is the one to get. But the Rizzoli one is really, really good as well. And it's an excellent book, and we just got this in at Book Soup, and I'm very, very happy that this guy's work is being exposed, because I think he's an important photographer. I think it's important in fashion history to document, well, all youth culture. And one does not think of Switzerland really as being useful, or any type of gangs, or any type of that type of culture activity, but this book documents that aspect of it, seen through the eyes of a gay man looking at youth on the street, and then he invites them up to an apartment and photographs them there as well. It's quite beautiful. And this is the episode of Tosh Talks. Take care. Bye-bye.